Hi, I'm Lisa Trumbull. I'm the President and CEO of Southern New England Healthcare Organization, or SoNE Health.
And I'm Trudy McKenna, Chief Financial Officer for SoNE Health.
SoNE Health is a clinically integrated network that operates in Connecticut and Massachusetts. We operate utilizing physicians in our network to manage the total cost of care and the clinical outcomes for the patients that we serve in Massachusetts and Connecticut. We made the decision to switch our partner, our pharmacy benefit manager partner, in 2021 when we converted to a self-insured plan and recognized that our pharmacy spend was escalating at a faster rate than at any other part of the healthcare expenditures. We utilized an external consultant to help us deploy the Consolidated Appropriations Act requirements on our health plan. And we did an RFP to solicit feedback and options and potential partners to help us manage the PBM spend better. That process was really important for us because it allowed us to explore the details of our spend in a way that we, prior to that, didn't understand. And we deployed different tools. We got a sense of the expenditures, the incentives, and broker influence on the pharmacy spend as part of the relationship. And that brought us to our conversation with CapRx.
So during the RFP process, we brought in multiple comparables to what we currently had with our TPA. We looked at two other options, one that our broker brought us and then another outside from CapRx. It was really a learning process for me. We learned a lot about how the spend happened. We looked at the various ways, the various models, the pricing models, and that was really helpful for us to then make some decisions as we made a change to CapRx.
Yeah, I would say the other thing that I would add to that, Trudy underestimates the learning process. The pharmacy spend is the most complicated aspect of healthcare expenditures to understand. It's not entirely transparent to the user, to the employer, and we learned a lot about pricing, the incentives, the third-party influence on the spend, and the slices of the cost or the dollar that everybody captured as part of that process. It was really illuminating for us as an employer.
So again, as it was a learning process, we learned about the NADAC pricing model. It allows you to have more transparency on the various levels of the spend that goes through the process for PBMs. So we went through that process and understood the various pieces of it. And it also allowed us to then even out the revenue spend or the expense spend throughout the process. So that helped us make the decision.
I think the other thing that it helped us with, first of all, we didn't know NADAC existed, right? Everybody's used to the average wholesale price, and the wholesale price is inflationary, where the NADAC pricing is somewhat stable or deflationary. We don't have the same escalation in costs on an annual basis because it's not tied to an average wholesale price.
So prior to our CapRx transition on 1/1/23, we were experiencing about $114 PMPM and had grown to 23% of our total plan. And that was largely driven by some medications for several high-cost patients, and then also just the trend of pharmacy spend. We since switching to CapRx, we've seen a $13 PMPM reduction on our spend overall. And that's about an 8% reduction in total. And we have a growing base, and that's then been transitioning and seeing that year-over-year trend. We've only had 1 year with CapRx, but hoping that that sustains into the next year. So I do feel like we do. CapRx has been very open with us. We meet with them regularly. We talk through any adjustments that we need to make related to spend, any high-cost claims that may be coming through, or if we need to approve anything. And we've set up regular quarterly cadence meetings to talk through anything that may arise. I've been very happy to, if there's an issue, I call directly and talk to a pharmacist. That's been very positive for us as a group.
Yeah, I would add that we had no transparency
True.
before. So this is enlightening to actually have the transparency and the cost and the frequency of certain drug utilization in our employee population.
And talking directly with a pharmacist
Yes.
to even just talk through
Exactly.
the issues. So implementation was very smooth. The team, we had kind of made a last minute decision for our new year. They jumped in, had a project plan. We had meetings regularly to plan for the transition. They're very dedicated and focused and helped us get to a 1/1 kickoff.
Our employee members experienced being able to utilize the CapRx program ahead of us making this transition by utilizing the discount program. And I can say for myself that I've had family members that have used the discount card and have benefited hugely from reduction in out-of-pocket costs just by using the discount card, more so than what they would have gotten with a GoodRx or another program.
Our members have seen some new options that have been favorable for us and them. They've had new mail order options, and then we've seen other options that they can use directly as a patient, and our experience with them has been very positive.
I would say, as a CEO of an organization that's gone through this implementation, most often CEOs are reluctant to make significant changes in their health plan because they don't want to disrupt the employee population. They don't want to hear the complaints from the employee population. And we didn't experience that with this implementation. I didn't hear complaints from any of our employees. I didn't hear any complaints from Trudy about the implementation process, which was a huge benefit to us and is part of the reason why the program's successful. I would say Capital Rx's client service model was excellent throughout the process. They were very helpful at exposing the black hole of pharmacy spend in your employee benefit plan. They held our hand through the whole process of the transition, the implementation, and have been there for ongoing questions and improvement, actually, in the way our employees are utilizing the product and the services. They continue to roll out additional options for us to utilize to reduce our spend, and they've been there holding our hand the entire way. So I would say that their service model has gone a long way to build trust with us as an employer, but also trust within our employee population.
And me directly, I work with the account management team, and they're very dedicated. They're very focused on getting us what we need. They'll reach out, we'll connect regularly. So I think it works really well with me and our HR team. So. Capital Rx has earned our trust as a vendor. They're dedicated, they're service-oriented, they've really driven everything we needed, have come to us with other options as we looked at things too. And I think it's a very positive thing. As part of the RFP process, our TPA transitioned with us, and they are now actually offering CapRx to other clients that they have. So it's been very positive overall.
I would add to that it's important to have the strategic alignment. And for an employer, our strategic alignment is to give our employees access to the pharmaceutical benefits that they need in order to improve their health, and to do it in a way that is economical, efficient, and effective. Versus some other PBMs whose interests aren't always aligned with the employer. It's more economically driven towards how much more can I earn in an incentive or a commission or a bonus on the way that we're pricing this strategy in an employer benefit portfolio. We haven't had that experience with Capital Rx, and I would say that's the number one factor that has instilled trust in the relationship, is that we're aligned in what we want for an outcome.
So it's important to ask really detailed questions, right? As I've learned in this process, you really have to understand what's under the hood, asking about the incentives, the rebates, the specialty pharmacy costs, administrative fees, and then understanding how that then implicates the cost for your organization. It's been a learning process again, and I think it's something that's important, especially through the Consolidated Appropriations Act, to ask those questions and to get the transparency as an employer for the benefit of the employees.
I would also recommend to employers, we work in healthcare, and we found the pharmacy spend to be perplexing, a black box, complete lack of transparency and pricing. And if we're in healthcare and we understand how this works, imagine, being the employer that doesn't have any sense of how this aspect of the business works. It's very different than other healthcare services. So I would highly recommend getting an independent source to help you. We had an independent consultant that understood this business that helped us evaluate the RFPs in the process, because they don't always reflect what you think they reflect. We were astonished to find that some of the answers in the RFP required further digging and tearing apart of the numbers to expose additional, per script incentives or, other aspects of the spend that we were unaware of that, just looking on the surface of it wouldn't, would have compared Capital RX to another product, they would have looked similar. But when you dig in a more detailed way and you understand the pricing model and the additional incentives that are buried into the RFP responses, is when you really get to ferret out what the true cost of the product will be. So I highly recommend an independent consultant, because your broker isn't always the best person to provide advice on what's the right answer in this space.
And they sometimes have a reason that they want to do it a certain way, so you have to be careful about that.
Vested interest
Yes.
in the outcome. I would say the best part about having Capital RX as our PBM partner is that it's a real partnership. It's not, they're not like a company that comes in, parachutes in, says, here's your pharmacy plan, and then they walk away and you don't ever see them again until the next year when you have to go out and bid your health insurance again. We have an ongoing relationship with them, and that's incredibly helpful, and it's different in the industry.
And they're invested, I think, Capital RX is, and differently than our previous PBM. It was very distant, and so you didn't really have discussions or plan anything out. So it really has helped us think about options and what's the best option for our organization.